film over to some friends, which was a real lot of fun. And that was a 1970-something film called Sabata with Lee Van Cleef. Now, Lee, as you know, was a big heavy during the 50s and had quit acting because he just got tired of being typecast as a heavy. He came back to the fold in 1964, I believe, when he was approached by Sergio Leone to do For a Few Dollars More. After Eastwood left, he stayed in Italy and did a whole bunch of other movies, like Day of Anger, Death Rides a Horse, The Commandos, and I believe that Sabata may have been his 8th film, and this was Lee at his zenith. An impeccable killer dressed in black with a rifle that wouldn't miss, with a trick pistol, and a bunch of friends on his side that took care of business. The whole plot of the film is that Sabata foils this bank robbery that was set up by several very important people in the town that want the money to buy the land because they know there's a railroad going through it, and the banker, the mayor, and a couple other people are involved. And of course, when Sabata foils this whole thing, all shit breaks loose because he gets a reward from the army, but also has evidence on the people that were behind the robbery. So the entire film is pretty much spent with one faction sending an army of killers against him, which, you know, one after another get knocked off. He found allies with a guy named Banjo, who had a Winchester concealed inside an actual banjo. Another scruffy Mexican guy, Carincha, who was good with a knife. And an acrobatic guy named Indio, or Alley Cat, who basically could, you know, jump from building to building. So there's never a dull moment in these films. Like I said, you know, this came out, they're saying the release date in the U.S. was 1970, but that was the year I graduated high school and I had just gotten my license. And I remember seeing this after that, because the thing is, it was probably shot in Italy, I believe, in 1969, but it always took a couple of years for these films to catch up to us. So I'm thinking it was around 72 when I saw it. It opened at a drive-in close to me on a Wednesday night, co-billed with a war movie called Bridget Remagen. And we went to see it at the drive-in. Well, the only drawback with seeing films at a drive-in is sometimes you don't see a lot of the film because, you know, of the darkness and, you know, the cheesy ambiance of a drive-in. So I was so impressed with the damn film that I, went over to 42nd Street to see it a second time that following Saturday. And I don't remember the theater it was playing at, but there was a huge standee of Lee standing on the marquee holding the gun, and it said, "Lee Van Cleef is Sabata." Well, I really popped for that. So, like I said, it had a cast of interesting characters. Banjo was playing both ends against the middle, and he was played by William Berger, an Austrian actor who basically came over to the States, did some Broadway, went back over there, got in a little trouble for drugs in, I believe it was 70 or something like that, got locked up. He did, Sabata, he did Today We Kill, Tomorrow We Die, Kioma, and he played... Franco Nero really liked him, and when they did the official sequel to Django Strikes Again, he had William Berger in the opening sequence as one of the older gunfighters. Sadly, William died at age 64, I don't believe. I'm trying to think. God, it might have been 1993. He was either, no, I think it was 64 or 65. He died pretty young. As for the others in the film, Carincha, the knife thrower, was played by Ignazio Spalla under a pseudonym of Pedro Sanchez, and he was in a lot of these films. He was in the quote sequel to Sabata, which was called Adios Sabata, which didn't have Lee Van Cleef, it had Yul Brynner, and what happened was the film wasn't a Sabata film. The name of the film was Indigo Black. But when it was brought over here, U.S. distributors decided, let's make it a Sabata film, because it was directed by the same director, Frank Kramer, a.k.a. Gio Franchi Parolini. and it only had one returning cast member, which was Pedro Sanchez. The others in the film, Indio was played by Nick Jordan, whose real name was Aldo Canty, who was actually killed in a mob hit, I believe. Trying to think when that was. I think that was 1990, and he was only like 48 years old. And Robert Hundar, Claudio Alderi, was one of the main bad guys who did a ton of spaghetti westerns. He passed away, I believe he was like 78. I think he passed away in 2008. I'm trying to dig this stuff up. Of course, we lost Lee in 1989 at age 64. There was only one real sequel to Sabata called Return of Sabata, and that was sort of, they were playing it for comedy. A lot of the stuff, because of Blazing Saddles with the spaghetti westerns, because Italians were pretty much they copied a lot of stuff, and when Blazing Saddles hit, that basically killed the spaghetti western because it all started drifting into self-parody. So, you know, that was pretty much the end of the spaghetti westerns, and Frank Kramer probably directed one of the last spaghetti westerns Lee ever did. I believe that was God's Gun, and it was shot in Israel, and it was really not the way to go out as far as making your last western, because the film pretty much sucked. But yeah, if you ever get a chance and it's available on DVD and Blu-ray, check it out, because Sabata is a hell of a lot of fun. A lot of action, a lot of shoot-ups, a lot of quirky stuff. Somebody even compared it to made Lee like the James Bond of the Old West or something like that, which I don't agree with, but that's what one reviewer said. But like I said, the film's a lot of fun and it still holds up. So, hey amigo, que Sabata. And now we will change hats for our next subject. Because changing hats, we have a holiday coming up, Valentine's Day, and there's a lot of holiday theme type films, and I'm not going to go into My Bloody Valentine because, okay, it's a Valentine's Day film, it's a slasher film, and you know, I've seen way too many slasher films, and not all of them are good. But for St. Valentine's Day, how about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre from '67, which was Roger Corman's first film for a major studio, with major actors like Jason Robards, George Segal, Robert Campanella, a bunch of people. Now, it was typical, you know, it was a Corman movie. You know, he brought it in on time and under budget, and it was basically a big budget B movie. And Roger, you know, was a loyal guy and loyal to the guys that he worked with. And if you look real closely, you'll see that Bruce Dern was cast as the mechanic who was shot down in the garage. Screenwriter and veteran heavy Leo Gordon was cast as one of the gangsters. Dick Miller was one of the fake cops that shot up the guys with the machine guns. Jonathan Hayes was Vic, the guy who was delivering the message on the motorcycle. And when they were doing this whole thing, there was a guy sitting in the background who you really didn't notice until you really took a good look, and he was the guy who said, "I'm rubbing garlic on the bullets. It gives you blood poisoning when you get shot with them." Well, that was Jack Nicholson. So, like I said, Roger was really good about, you know, bringing his old crew in, make a couple bucks on a big budget, you know, crime film. And for '67, this was pretty good. And, you know, Jason Robards was a really good snarling Al Capone. You know, you had basically a who's who of character. I even wrote some of this shit down. I did my fucking homework. You had George Segal, Ralph Meeker, Frank Silvera, Joseph Campanella, Joe Turkel. And if you really, you know, you look at the film, Harold J. Stone, a lot of these guys were playing mobsters. So there's another one that's still available, you know, on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, so it's definitely worth checking out. And as a footnote to the whole Valentine's Day thing, sadly, we lost our good buddy David F. Friedman on Valentine's Day years ago, but as his niece told me after he passed, he goes, Dave would have wanted this way because it was in conjunction with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So, that's it for today. Stay sick, and we'll see you on the flip side.